All right, today we're jumping into something that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually grounded in some pretty amazing science. We're talking about a concept that could totally reshape our world by mashing up biology, mathematics, and, well, the concrete that makes up our cities. Let's dive right in.
So, just think about this for a second. What if the world we've built, all the bridges, the buildings, what if it wasn't just brittle and doomed to decay? What if it was alive, responsive, able to actually heal itself? It sounds like pure fantasy, right? But believe it or not, the blueprints for this are being drawn up as we speak.
And get this, the secret sauce isn't some new super metal or a magical kind of concrete. Nope, the answer lies in combining three fields that honestly seem like they have absolutely nothing to do with each other. And this is where the story starts to get really, really cool.
But before we can appreciate just how radical this idea is, we have to talk about the problem it's trying to solve. And it's a big one, a problem you and I see every single day, all around us. See, the issue isn't just that things break. Things are always going to break. The real problem, the one that drives everyone crazy, is that fixing them is an absolute nightmare. The source material nails it with this phrase, institutional and political inertia. It's that tangled mess of budgets, permits, and politics that can make a simple repair drag on for years, even a decade. So what's the alternative? What if you could just sidestep all of that inertia? Well, that brings us to the big idea, completely rethinking what infrastructure even is. The idea here is to make a huge shift. Instead of building static things that we constantly have to patch up, what if we started cultivating living systems that take care of themselves? We're talking about infrastructure that's dynamic, that's constantly adapting, and that can heal itself on its own, without waiting around for a committee to give the okay. Okay, so how on earth do we actually build something like that? It's time to open up that mystery box we talked about and look at the three very strange ingredients in this recipe for a self-healing world.
First up is topology. Now, this is not your high school geometry class. Topology is all about the properties that don't change when you stretch or bend an object. So think about a subway map. You can warp the map, you can stretch it out, but what really matters is that the station for point A is still connected to the station for point B. Topology is obsessed with that fundamental connection, not the exact shape of the path. Ingredient number 2 is mycology. Yep, the study of fungi. And the hero of this story is something called mycelium. It's this incredible, massive, branching network of fungal threads that's basically nature's master engineer. It breaks stuff down, it builds new things. It's a living, growing, adaptive network. And our final, seemingly random ingredient, urban planning. This is the world of rules and regulations, the zoning codes that shape our cities. But as we've already seen, its biggest weakness is the very problem we're trying to solve. It's just got this built-in resistance to changing quickly. Now here's where it gets clever. If we break these different fields down, we can find a kind of common ground. Each one has a function, a structure, and a constraint, right? Topology's function is all about connection. Mycology is about transforming materials. And urban planning's is about regulating systems. When you lay it all out like this, you start to see how their different pieces might just fit together like a puzzle. Okay, we've got our ingredients on the counter. So how do we mix them all together to cook up something totally new? Here's the recipe. The logic is actually beautifully simple. First, you take the goal from topology. We need to maintain that functional connection no matter what the physical shape looks like. Then you grab the tool from mycology, a living, growing mycelial network that can build and repair itself. And finally, you use that tool to tackle the obstacle from urban planning, that bureaucratic red tape that stops us from fixing things. And out of this combination, we get a brand new material. The source calls it a Topological Myco-Polymer Weave. It's this composite material made from genetically tweaked fungi, and it's fed by our own city's recycled waste. It's reinforced with tiny polymer fibers, and this is the really key part. It's embedded with microbiosensors that act like a nervous system, constantly checking up on the structure's health. This all leads us to the core idea, topological homeostasis. So here's how it works. Those little sensors I mentioned, they detect stress or a tiny crack, basically a threat to the network's connectivity. That signal then triggers the mycelium to start growing into that weak spot, healing the damage and reinforcing the structure. The amazing thing is, it's preserving the function of the network, even while its physical shape might be changing. So what's the end results of all this? You get a system that can literally heal itself faster than a city council can approve the paperwork for a repair crew. It's a biological solution to a bureaucratic headache, and it could create a level of resilience for our world that we've never seen before. Now, I know this all sounds pretty incredible, and it is, but it's really important we stay grounded here. The source material is very upfront about the huge, massive challenges standing in the way of this future. First off, there's a major engineering hurdle. How in the world do you feed a living city? Sourcing and standardizing enough organic waste for this to work is a massive logistical challenge. The proposed fix? Creating a network of decentralized myco-depots. Think of them as local recycling hubs that turn neighborhood waste into the perfect standardized food for this living infrastructure. Second, there's a more fundamental problem. Just because a network is physically connected doesn't guarantee it's working right. You could end up with a sort of traffic jam of nutrients inside the mycelium. To get around this, you have to make the system smarter. The idea is to add a predictive layer to the whole thing that models the actual flow of resources, not just the physical structure. And that leads us to the third, and maybe the most important challenge of all, the societal risks. I mean, if a living, autonomous bridge fails, who's liable? Who's to blame? And could the system develop its own biases? Could it start prioritizing repairs in wealthier areas with more resources, making existing inequality even worse? The solutions here are two-part. First, we'd need brand new legal frameworks for these bioregulated assets. And second, we'd have to hard-code equity constraints into the system to guarantee it distributes resources fairly. These hurdles are enormous, for sure, but they force us to ask some really profound questions about the kind of future we're actually building. Here's the main takeaway from all of this. This idea is so much bigger than just self-healing concrete or fixing potholes. It represents a fundamental shift in how we think. We would go from being builders of inert, static objects to becoming cultivators of living, evolving ecosystems that we actually live inside. And that leaves us with one last, really provocative question to chew on. If our cities become living things that can heal their own wounds, we gain this incredible resilience. But it also opens up a whole new can of worms, philosophically speaking. Who gets to decide what actually counts as a wound that needs healing? And which of our city's scars, which parts of our history, are actually worth keeping? That's definitely something to think about.